This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome to our EVEolution Success Panel call. This is an introduction to our EVEolution Women's Retreat. And I'm Faith Bost. I'm the owner of the Faith and Wellness Retreat Center. And we'll likely have more people coming on in the next few minutes, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So EVEolution Women's Retreat started 3 years ago. At that time, I asked myself, what is the biggest gift I could give to other women? And it was this retreat. So I got the name EVEolution, putting the bite back in the apple. It was a way of restoring both the divine love and the divine power of women. That's how I saw putting the bite back in the apple, the meaning of restoring our power and the true meaning of the feminine as powerful love. The first retreat happened to be January 2017, and it was a perfect divine symphony with the Women's March, the Women's March that 5 million people, 82 countries participated right after the election. So that was this huge stand that women were taking all over the planet, and simultaneously with the birth of EVEolution Women's Retreat that same weekend. And it was a powerful beginning. So since then, we've held 10 retreats, each of them their own perfect semblance of women, each one special in its own way, and the group of women that came together for each one. One of the consistent things that happens in the EVEolution Women's Retreat is the participants remember their mother's love. And so if you can just hear that, it has a special meaning in your heart, if you can just hear it about remembering our mother's love. And, women sometimes remember their grandmother's love as well. So sometimes we have a lot of remembering of grandma and also moms, because it's so much about restoring our own, full measure as a female ourselves, and it brings up mom and grandma and the lineage of women that we come from. And tonight for our success panel, we have 3 of our EVEolution graduates, Tracy and Anne and Lauren, and they're going to be sharing their stories for you to see what's possible as a woman when you fully embrace yourself and when you experience your divine feminine value. So your divine feminine value, our retreat is about bringing women into their full measure of the experience of themselves as and I say divine, as our greater purpose in life, to experience ourselves as our full measure that's why I say divine feminine value. It's not going to be a small amount of value to experience what we're really here for. So let's start with Tracy. Tracy, I'll ask you some questions to help this along. So Tracy, who were you before EVEolution?
So right out of the gate, I feel it's so much emotion in my heart. EVEolution was who was I, to answer your question? Who was I before? I was Tracy in a very fight or flight unconscious pattern, and go, living my life, go, in a very codependent relationship with my husband of, at that time, 30 years or so.
Okay.
What led me up to it, or can I keep going?
Yes.
How much do you desire me to share?
Yes.
What
comes to you?
Well, 6 weeks prior, I went to evolution. My evolution was part of my own awakening. 6 weeks prior, I had met Faith at my house on an emergency call. Faith, help. Um, it was a transformational, it was a pivotal time. It was a weekend after I had one of the most glorious experiences of my life. And then also at the same time, one of the most potentially in my life at that time, devastating point where I had received a gift of life from an angel that left the planet for a kidney. And then on that same weekend, my husband said, I'm done. And it had been a second time that he had said that in as many years. And he had been playing in this new realm of conscious language with another coach. And I had met that other coach. And I did see some changes leading up to evolution. This is just a little build. I had seen some changes in my husband. I really admired the changes I started to see in him and wanted it really bad too, because I love my partner. And I saw him upgrading, and is what we called it. I saw him changing. And then came that weekend when he was about to leave, and I knew he came back and said, all right, let's talk to somebody. And he was going to suggest a male, another guy coach. And I said, yeah, I'm absolutely willing to talk and to make time to share with my partner to restore this. But I know who I'd like to talk to is a female. And the only female in the coaching world at that time of the same type of realm was Faith. And I hadn't coached with Faith prior to this. I had met her at the same retreat that I had gone to one time. It was just a brief meeting. And even though it was just a brief meeting, it was such an important weekend. That call to Faith, somehow in her, she knew to come. And she offered to come to my house graciously because I had just had this major surgery. And she brings her darling husband, Rick, and the two of them walk in. And I expected some sisterhood. I don't know what I choose to say. I don't know. I do know. It was a heart's call for something big that was bigger than I knew at the time. And it took Faith and Rick sitting on my couch 4 minutes to ask me, so what's going on? It was very simple. Faith is just gracious. They sat down and what's up? And I was ready with my charge. I don't feel this. I don't feel he does this. And it was all about, I don't feel. And within 4 minutes, she said, just go ahead and pause you right there. And I thought, well, that's weird. I just started talking. And she said, when was the last time or the first time that you remembered not feeling? And it was the universe really coming together with everything that had to say, now is your time to wake up, my dear. And before that, I would say before evolution, I was a really lost little girl. And Faith helped me during that meeting really start to see that there was a lot of me. It was my codes where I was blaming my husband, everything on the outside, and zero responsibility on the inside was my shift. And so we talked about me, and it's as always, it's as if a veil, we call a veil a lot. It was this, I was coming through this veil going, what is this? And then, so I wanted a little more. It was enough of it's more about me. It's stop blaming the outside. And that was a very new concept. And so 6 weeks later, 4 weeks later, she was about to have an evolution. She read my eyes, which is also not asked of you to talk about. But so I did some things consecutively. I had this meeting with her, which was a huge aha. I had my eyes read, another big aha. And then she invited me to an evolution. As evolution, the time was a lot more time than I had ever invested in myself up to that point. And I was a big yes, because I felt just so much energy a pull, a magnetic pull, with like magic in my body going, yes. Everything about her calm, her sense of bringing and eliciting a change within me was calling me to this evolution. And I'd like to go a little farther. Is I walked into that evolution. She had given me a heads up that this is going to be, please come, you're invited. There's a facilitator's birthday this evening. We're going to have dinner and cake, and you're welcome to come celebrate with us. And this was new to me as well. And I walked in where I would have said, in my head, I'm just going to wait, let them have their little party and join later. And I really felt this leading to say, no, yeah, go. You should go. And so I packed my bag and I showed up to this women. A new faith. That was it. And this is new to me, to walk into a party, and it was a party where I was new, and I was so new. This whole thing, as soon as I stepped into that environment, was so welcoming. It was walking home in me, and a beautiful environment of community of women. And that was new as well. And it was immediately so loving and supportive, and that she creates this great space. And so I felt welcomed immediately. And that was just the beginning of the last 2.5 years have been beautiful ever since. So I'm highly a yes for people starting an evolution. This is a beautiful place to start.
Yeah. What would you say to anyone on the call that's thinking about evolution?
Do it. Action. It takes action. It requires you to say yes. And if you have a yes at all inside of you, to listen to that and go ahead and take action. As if you desire a different outcome, you desire something different.
So you said that one of your big movements was from fear to trust and security. How are you doing
Yes.
on
Beautiful.
for you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part? It went
What
in and
has
out.
changed in your life since evolution? Specific.
I have trust in my own self. My world is in me. I control my world. My reality is all within me and within my bounds. And I look within first. I trust my own divine wisdom first. Whereas before, I would always go on the outer and ask my beloved, or at least anybody else. But I had to check in with other people first. And now I check in first with me. It's my yes.
Awesome.
And
yeah, that's huge. And how about with your children?
It's fun to see this work when I do it in me first. I have a different lens on how I look at my family. And whereas I used to try to be a fixer, I was always fixing everybody else, everybody but me. And I required fixing people because that was easier than fixing myself. And again, it was very much an outside in. Now it just happens. I trust that my family's all divine. I decree over all my men are divine and light and love. My daughters are beautiful light and love, and they already live with their divine. So I decree it, and it already is in me. And it's beautiful to watch conversations or to have conversations with them now, and for them to speak into their own lives and owning their own boundaries, their own life, their own authorship coming out and forward, because now they're all adults and they're adulting. They're talking about beautiful things. I just had a beautiful conversation with my son just this moment before I went live. So another reason why I was a moment late is he just got accepted to a school he applied to all on his own. I mean, he's doing everything on his own. And he's excited. You see it in his face.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I'm honored to share.
Next, we have Anne. And Anne has been one of the pillars of our conscious community. She recently co-facilitated our bioelectronics retreat, and it's been an honor and a delight to play with her and watch her step into her power as a creator. Anne, will you share who you were before EVEolution?
Yes. So I'm 69, and when I came to this work, I was 67 and about to retire. And I'd had 2 full careers, very successful careers, raised a son, had been married, but I still had this feeling there was something missing. And what I thought that was that I'd always dreamed, my heart's dream, of sharing my songs. I've written songs all my life. So I came into this work of pure speech and body language and evolution and body electronics and all the tools that Faith shares with us at the retreat center. I had a lifetime of self-help work and a lifetime of spiritual work, and anybody looking at me from the outside would have said I was a responsible, functioning adult. And at the same time, inside, did I have joy? You know, if I could ask myself that question, if I died tomorrow, would I feel complete? And the answer was no, there's something else. So as I retired, I had spent a lot of my life pleasing others and giving myself away and supporting others. Everything I'd done, measured by the world's success, was supporting others. And I put myself last. So at this period of my life, I chose to put myself first. And that's what I've been doing ever since, and I'm having a ball. So but who I was before EVEolution was, I was the responsible, good girl, still pleasing everybody, still accomplishing and doing things, mostly living out of my head, out of touch with feeling, and definitely had given up on my dreams.
What were your biggest breakthroughs through EVEolution?
I've had so many, both in evolution and since, but I'll speak to 2 big ones. And they have to do with, I had a lot of low self-esteem coming in, and I operated from fear, and fear being wrong. And so the 2 big movements, one was birthing my creativity, and then the other was how much healing I got in my relationship with myself, with my body, with love, and with my son, is the way that showed up. So I'll speak to the creativity one. I had this dream that I would share the songs I wrote and they would make a difference for people. But I didn't believe in their worth. And through EVEolution and through sharing them with the women there in such a supportive environment, I was encouraged and supported to find my value and the value of what I bring. And now 3 years later, I have a CD out and it's got 6,000 streams globally. And I was gifted with the money to produce this. Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. I had a lot of fear of technology, and I now have a website. I had a lot of fear of finances. I now have an LLC. I mean, the turnaround. I envisioned this as Anne will go into the studio, record her little songs, and come out with her CD. And it was so much bigger than that. And so I'm still just thrilled and enjoying every time I get a song. Every time I feel something really deeply that moves me, a song comes through. So we're at 15 songs and counting now. So that was my creativity opening up. And the second one was my understanding of the subconscious patterns I was running around love. Faith spoke to the fact that one of the things we do in EVEolution is we excavate our own subconscious and our feeling world, and we find out how we're wired. And most of us were wired early in life when we were toddlers by our parents doing their best to love us and they've got programming that they got from their parents doing their best to love them. And we're repeating that programming for our children, for good or ill. So my wiring was that love was wired to worry and to conforming, and you know, making sure that my child is raised in a way that gets along in the world, and also my job as a mother, or my way of showing love, is if I'm always looking out for him and worrying about him. Well, so I had a coaching experience with Faith, and I was having an experience with my son, and we say this: look at your outer world. If it's not your highest choice, then there's nothing wrong with the world. It's something in you. So I was looking at my outer relationship with my son and seeing that he didn't call me as often as I'd like him to. And so rather than going into blame, oh, my son is not a very loving son, Faith invited me to look in and say, well, okay, what is it that you're doing that's creating the situation of your son not not having an opening to give you love or share love with you? And so she said, do you love your son? And I said, yes. And my head said no. And I was shocked. But what we discovered in that disconnect between what I was saying in words and what body language told me was not that I didn't love my son. It was that I didn't know what love was. That I was applying to my son love as I learned it as a child. I was worrying about him and you know, always on his case. So he experienced that as not love, and it wasn't love. When I got the decree, I love the son I have, not one I imagined it would be easier to love. I love the son I have. I'm his perfect mom, and he's my perfect son. We chose each other. I am sovereign in my love. My son is sovereign in his love. We come together in love and share miracles. You know, when I got those kinds of decrees running in my head, it freed up our relationship. A year later, he invited me to join him at a dance camp. First ever. He's a performer and dancer in New York. Never wanted me to come to his productions. Called me maybe 3 times a year. I spent a week and a half with him at a dance camp. We had a ball. And just since that time, our conversations are so much easier and more fun, and the quality of our relationship is so much better. So those are 2 huge gifts that came out of EVEolution and came out of this work for me over the last 3 years, was my ownership of my own life, my understanding of what my subconscious programming was, my ability to make a new choice and change that, and how that's shown up in my life with creative expression and healthy relationships.
Awesome. And another thing that I remember is you just started doing squats. You went from pain about yoga to now you're doing squats and vigorous types of exercise.
Yes, the last retreat that I went to most recently, Andrea and Aaron came up with an idea that was really important for women, which is a lot of our self-esteem is tied to our body image, and they called their retreat My Body, My Blessing. And so for several weeks leading up to that, since I was jumping in and staffing with them, we got to go first. So in exploring my body image, what I hated and loved about my body, I got a new level of ownership around that I create my body. I chose my body. I create my body. I partner with my body, and I define beauty. And getting a lot of that was huge in how I feel about myself. And it also was huge in just self-care, So my food choices and adding more exercise to my life. And yes, so the last, probably 2.5 months, one of my latest movements has been around reclaiming my strength and flexibility and being in my body, being happy in my body. That's been fun. That's been magical.
What would you say to anyone on the call who's thinking about joining EVEolution?
I would say, number one, you're never too old. So, don't think that. I would say, listen to your heart. Just what Tracy said. If you read the description and something in you says yes, trust your yes. We're telling our stories, but what I've found in this work is it's impossible to know in advance. I say yes before I know. And then I jump in and I go to EVEolution, and 8 days later I go, wow, I thought I was here for one thing, and it's huge beyond that. So I would say, trust your heart.
Thank you, Anne. And now we have had someone who's 80 do EVEolution, and now we're going to speak to the youngest person to have done it, Lauren. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I'm 20 now. I was 18 going on 19 when I did my EVEolution. And so this was not this past summer, but the summer before, so about a year. And as far as who I was before EVEolution, I was Mrs. Hard Worker. Like I believed that hard was just the way it was for me and the way it was going to be for me, and I wasn't even conscious of that at the time. At that point in my life, I had just gotten done like doing all my like college applications and things like that, and I was just in such a state of overwhelm at that point that I was the level of numbness that I had was, I wasn't aware of the level of numbness that I had at the time, but prior to EVEolution, I was so in my left brain. I was my dad. I was my dad before EVEolution. And I had some, I grew up in a way that was love equals pain, and I had pain as a huge theme in my life, and that was another breakthrough that I had, because I was so numb to it that my pain wasn't real for me anymore. It was just kind of the way things were. I was in such a state of constant like pain, and it's hard, that I thought I was doing great. I thought that was normal. And what really changed for me in EVEolution was just bringing awareness to that. Like, it was a huge awakening for me, that I was being my father, because my father is a former Marine, and so I had done a decade of like self-help work, of mainly in the life coaching variety, but I was not new to this work a year ago, but I had so much left to uncover with my parents, with how my upbringing had molded me, because I was mostly doing this work under the influence of my parents, because that's how I was introduced to self-help and life coaching at 9 years old, because my mom is a life coach. And so EVEolution was the first full stride that I took in my own journey, and I insisted on going alone rather than having my mom come or insisting on my sister coming. It was my first one that I did truly. I had taught workshops and courses before that, but this was the first thing I actually did for me and me alone. And that was huge for me, because part of my it's hard, like, we're gonna push through. I was so brutal with myself before EVEolution, for the sake of getting through life for others. There was a very little, like, this is my choice. And so going into EVEolution, I just had so many aha moments. And with 10 years in this work, that was not what I expected to happen. With 10 years in this work, I was like, okay, well, we're going to integrate some of the things that I've already uncovered. but the case was, there was at the time in my family, there was a lot of suppression going on. And so I had a lot of suppression in me. And so one of the things that sticks out to me in my memory is, so the acupressure body electronics on the table, that was when I realized that I had pain equals love, hurt equals love. And that's how I was operating before, is I was putting myself through pain for the sake of getting love. And so my self-worth before and after, and my awareness to what I was feeling, or my awareness to what I feel, I got my feeling back online more. And I'm obviously, my movement is still, I get my upgrades every day still. But that was my biggest theme, was pain, and pain equals love, and pain is, I have to have pain to feel loved. And so, and the other thing that was completely new for me in EVEolution was being slow with myself, being pure, just, it's okay, honey, with myself. That was something I had yet to give myself before EVEolution, was taking care of me, being taken care of. And as you know, as an 18-year-old woman, like, that's not what you expect to hear from someone so young. But I had made it my job to take care of everyone at that age. And another cool thing I remember is I was in EVEolution with a bunch of moms, and I'm not a mom, I'm a daughter right now. And it was so amazing to me, because my pain equals love came from mom and dad, and to see the parallels between the ahas that I was having and the ahas that the moms were having, it was so cool, because the EVEolution is such a group movement, because as women we have this collective consciousness. And to see how, I got a taste of my mom's perspective too, just being in EVEolution with so many mamas. But I also saw where my movement was on par with theirs. I was having the same, and we were all different ages, all different life stages, and the collective consciousness aspect that women have, it feels really special to me to have such a connection with other women now. That was, obviously, my mom was in my life growing up, but to feel that community of women is huge. I got that womanhood is powerful, and I didn't that was, my self-esteem was really bad before EVEolution. And bad, I say bad, I had some upgrades in that area. But I have so much more respect for myself as a woman now than I did at that time. And I choose to speak one more time to how brutal I was with myself, and how that relates to the gaining of respect for myself after EVEolution. I choose to share a memory from EVEolution that we did an eating meditation one morning, and that was the first time that I ate to feed myself. Prior to that, I had struggled with food and being nurtured, and I would eat as more of just a punishment. I would, overeat and things like that. And so the level of like me being nourished that I got from that experience was, that was the first time that I had nourished myself and allowed myself to be fully nourished and fed. So that's the experience that I had with being in a group of powerful women, is being nourished.
Beautiful, Lauren. Thank you. What would you say to anyone who's thinking about joining EVEolution?
I mean, do it, but there may be, so for me, sometimes I have this pattern of I can't, or I don't want to, or it's hard. It's hard was a theme for me. And I was shocked when I got into EVEolution that it wasn't hard. It was actually so easy and so blissful. Bliss was the feeling that I had from EVEolution, and I had never, that was so new for me in that time. And so it's okay to give yourself a gift. That's what I choose to say, because that was my first gift that I had given myself in my entire life.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so now you've heard from some of the graduates of EVEolution, and the dates of our next EVEolution is October 17th through the 25th. And what Lauren spoke to is what we put into this retreat is all things on the feminine side, such as nurturing, resting. We do restorative yoga. We're fed with organic meals cooked with love. And some of the ingredients come from fresh from our farm. One of the things that I discovered in EVEolution, I was saying, wow, women are like dry sponges because we kept giving them, nurturing them, feeding them, and they just kept soaking it up. And so women are the receiving side. The masculine side is the outgoing, the feminine is the receiving. And here women were on the receiving side, but they were in the outgoing energy, and they were not themselves. So EVEolution, we built everything on the feminine side for our remembering. And we do creativity. We use creativity in creative projects because creativity is on the feminine side. We have an art room we play in. And we do body electronics. That's a big part of the retreat, is a body electronics session. And that's the modality that helps us discover what we have wired. Like Lauren was talking about, she discovered she had pain and love wired together in her subconscious, which means the two would act together. And so body electronics helps us discover these unconscious patterns that we may be having sabotage around or struggle around. And we'd like to shift it, but we're not conscious of how it's in there, how it's in our subconscious because it forms in the womb, that the subconscious imprint, and then we reinforce it from about 0 to 8 years old, it doesn't really make sense to the conscious mind. So what the body electronic session does is it helps to bring up the patterns and how the patterns are in there in a way that the conscious mind can make the decision to shift it, because it gets the wiring. And before that, people are saying, oh, I don't know what the pattern is. I know I'd like to have something different, or if I could. And so that's the power of the body electronic session. And we're basically, what it is a woman is fully clothed. She's on a massage table, and the rest of the women are holding specific acupressure points on her body, gently holding her. And then memories begin to come up. We don't know what the memories are going to be ahead of time. We may have our list of, these are the worst things, but that may not be what our subconscious brings up. Our subconscious is going to bring up something that's going to help us have ourselves in a new way. And so it'll be significant memories, but not what we've maybe picked out as the worst of the worst. But what they're going to do is they're going to restore us to ease in feeling, and they're going to restore us to deep feeling, and to feeling again, to security, things like that. And so Andrea is on the call. She has done body electronics and EVEolution. Andrea, can you share with us an example like that of a specific memory that came up for you on the table, and then what returned for you from having that memory?
So I was on a table, and it was a body electronics, and I remembered being about 3.5 or 4 years old, and I was in this really pretty blue nightgown that I'd gotten for Christmas with long sleeves and beautiful lace. And I woke up because my sister, who was a teeny tiny baby in the crib and had pooped everywhere, and I was a no for cleaning it up. And I went out to the living room, and my parents nobody was home. And so I walked out the door, and I proceeded to walk through the apartment complex. Lord, I don't know what time it was. It may have been 8, but it seemed like 2 o'clock in the morning to me. And I knocked on doors of my parents' friends' houses. And sometimes I stood there and cried, or sometimes they looked out the window. Sometimes nobody came. And I just kept going to doors and knocking on doors till I found my parents and told them that my sister and I required their support. And so what for me, that memory in and of itself demonstrated the level of will that I am here to embody as a sovereign being, because how I have identified myself in the past has been everybody had power over me. I was a victim of all kinds of different things. And so what I spent my life doing was running and work as well. I worked. I held up the walls with my head and spit in paper towels. And so I had, what has come from that is I remembered, resentment coming up. I recommit. I stay sovereign in my will, and I have choice. And so I have found my own will and the power and the size of the will that I have in me to be sovereign and have all of the things that I desire in life, and the massive power that I have to create them. And so that's it's been my very first, the very first time I came into any of this, I was invited to come to EVEolution, and I had to say, wait. I was really afraid. And I had a memory of God whispering in my ear just before I was born that said, remember your purity, which is one of my biggest threads and missions here and purpose on earth in this body. And through this work, that's what I'm coming into. And I remember leaving to go to the farm the very first time, and I tried to turn around. I was so afraid. And that fear comes in because there's something in us that knows that there is going to be massive change on the horizon, and we don't yet understand it. And here again, the amount of will that it took for me to drive myself out there, afraid to death, in some literally the death of my little self. How are they going to see me? How are they going to feel about me? I've never spent that much time with women in that kind of environment. I didn't know anybody, and I was literally so afraid. But I was in a place where I'd had enough pain, and it was time. And so it was similar to Lauren. It was probably the very first gift I ever truly gave myself. And it has completely rebuilt my life through the work that we do, the playing in consciousness, the women and the women and the women and the women. And I remember when I went home and was talking to my mother about my experience, I said, I've never felt so much love in one place in my entire life. I didn't know that much love was available for one person, let alone for me. I had 8 women hold me for 2.5 hours until I walked all the way through. And it's an amazing, amazing experience. And I have a yes for Faith anytime she says, do you? And I say yes. I don't know what's coming next. It doesn't friggin' matter, because I choose to play. I love consciousness. I love playing in body language and body electronics and eye reading. And this has become an integral part of my life. And I'm so grateful.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. So the body electronics, Andrea shared an example of a memory, and the beauty of body electronics is sometimes we are releasing and touching and transforming really painful memories that we've been unable to touch. And then other times our subconscious is bringing us a gift of, here's a memory of how strong you are. Here's a memory, a good memory. So somebody will get a memory of feeling so much joy as a little girl. And so some of our subconscious is bringing to us exactly what we require to restore ourselves. And women are born to midwife each other, or midwife their world. So we all step right into being spiritual midwives with one another. And it's a beautiful experience. It comes natural to women. When we did the mixed groups before, men and women together, we used to say, okay, everybody, come on back, get here on time. And what we found with women is we didn't have to say, here's the time to come back. They were right back because of their high value for what was going on. That women were bringing themselves back online, and where maybe their grandmother or mother had checked out on something and they didn't have it to give their daughter, they have the memory and they're able to give it to themselves and their mother and grandmother. So beautiful, beautiful experiences happen, and they're very sacred. And that's one of the big things about women is we get how sacred life is. Well, at some level, we have the feminine energy that we birthed everyone on the planet as an archetype. And so we get the sacredness of life. And when we come together to celebrate what we get, the way that we're going to raise our planet into also remembering how sacred life is, the peace on earth version, is that we're going to value ourselves. And when we value ourselves is when we can give it to our world. So that was the one glitch that women had with shame or guilt or not knowing their value, is how could they update their world about the sacredness of life if they were leaving themselves for others, and me serve others, and I don't have me. But that's okay. After I've done enough service, then I'll have me. We have some kind of process story in there once everyone's taken care of. And I imagine that the whole idea of you hear on the airplane about now make sure when those oxygen mask comes down, you put it on yourself first, and then you put it on everybody else. And I would ask myself, really? I wonder how many women would actually do that. Even though that's the rules, they're not behaving like that. That's how it works. So we remember the basic way to play in an effective and powerful way as women in EVEolution Women's Retreat. And it's 8.5 days. We do a lot with body language. We do a lot with finding our codes of language. And our outcome is that you leave with powerful tools in the system to be able to continue to upgrade to your highest choices in all areas of your life. So does anyone have any questions or any more comments? Anybody?
Hi, I just wanted to say hello. This is Amy, and I wasn't on the beginning of the call. So I just wanted to make myself known and say hi to everybody.
Great. Hi, Amy. Where are you located?
Minneapolis, Minnesota, where it did not get above 50 today.
Awesome. We have another Amy from Minneapolis on the call as well. Well, welcome, Amy.
Thanks, and thanks to everyone who shared.
Oh, I choose to say I'm in Lubbock, Texas, and it got in the 40s today, I think. So.
Wow. Okay.
Faith, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Lisa, and I'm wondering, on average, is there a certain frequency that you have women's retreats? That you hold each of them?
Every few months we have an EVEolution.
Okay.
So probably likely
quarterly, roughly every quarter.
Yes. Potentially the next one will be January or February.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, typically twice a year, not quarterly.
Okay.
And it's increasing. Anne worked for the IRS, so she's being conservative.
And we're having a lot more frequent retreats, but in terms of EVEolution, yes, we're having the weekend immersions and My Body, My Blessing and Adam and Eve and a variety of retreats, and typically 2 EVEolutions a year, but hey, quarterly, sure.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? So one of the
Faith.
oh, yes.
This is Lisa again. You know what's occurring for me, I just came from this past week in a body electronic session, and it was very powerful for me. But I'm also realizing that, just like we all are changing as humans, my work is to basically take all the tools and the upgrades and the experiences that I have and work to integrate those, right? But then I will need to come back. And the thing that appeals to me about this women's only retreat is that I have felt in the past a distance from women, the community of women. So one of the things that was a high point for me in this session, one of many, was that I had the opportunity to develop relationships with women. And in the past, I could have been heard saying, it's hard for me to communicate with women. I prefer men. Men get me and women don't, kind of thing. So what really appeals to me about this EVEolution is that I do believe wholeheartedly that will be one of many areas that I can have an upgrade in and have more experiences with feeling and connecting with women specifically.
Yes. Anybody choose to comment on that?
Yes, and amen. Yes, I agree. Just to share, that was part of my own experience as well, as I found that comfort of walking into this party of women. It was so comfortable, zero. It was just a loving environment. It was the first time that I didn't see anybody looking at me like, what is she wearing? How does she look? Nobody gave a flip. And that was the whole, it embodied the whole space and the whole week. And it allows you, that authentic, just loving environment is up to that point was very new to me. And since I have seen it more and more and desired it, because now I have a new awareness of women, I see it so much more now. And I've had beautiful relationships with people outside of this as well, as I have a different lens now for women. And I also I view myself different now as well. I'm new. So all my women are new as well. And it keeps building. So yes, beautiful point. And it's even bigger than that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
So one of the things we do in EVEolution is we look into what about where have women been as a collective? What stories are we carrying? And we go into what is misogyny. Misogyny is the hatred of women, and it's been something that's been socialized. And then internalized misogyny is when we internalize and the behaviors around that internalized misogyny is to judge other women, to compete with them, to not feel secure with them, and look at their behaviors, all that kind of stuff. And feminism is not an against men or a fight for equal rights. Feminism is simply the love of women. And that's what we remember in EVEolution. We remember our mother's love. We remember our mother remembering her value. We remember our value and also our powerful love, that our real superpower is love. And we don't require leaving our love based on anything outside of us. And when we stay for our love and we stay in love, that's what Tracy was saying, is she has a different lens that she magnetizes into our world. So our subconscious, we're 90% subconscious and only 10% conscious mind. And the 90% subconscious has that basic wiring about, misogyny, and if misogyny exists, how can I feel about myself as a woman? And so we look at that, we look at what's recorded in our script about the feminine, and then we make new choices. And we make new choices, remembering also that leaving our love is leaving our power, and that we have a choice to stay in love. And if we stay in love is when the pattern shifts, because in our subconscious, those belief systems that are running about our experience in the feminine, or our mother's experience, or our grandmother's experience, that is running in a belief pattern in our genetic memory, we are magnetizing experiences to us based on our subconscious belief systems. So we'll have trouble with intimacy with women, or we'll have competition with women, or we'll have women not seeing us or hearing us or loving us, or challenges with our own value. And all of that is upgradable. And that's the remembering that happens in evolution. And it is a powerful experience to come together as the feminine, agreeing to stay in our superpower of love. That there's our world will shift around us when we stay in our powerful love, and our world will shift and upgrade around us to something that becomes, especially the desires of our heart show up, with our children, in our relationships, with our body, with friends, and with our greater mission in life. What we're here to do is called our greater mission. And that's another thing that we play with in evolution, is what are we really here for? Because we've been running the unconscious patterns and belief systems that may have us going away from things that we don't want to be like this, or we don't want to do that, or we don't like this. And in evolution, we're going to focus on, well, what do we choose? What is our heart's desire? What's the dream of our heart? Or because we may be getting life right according to our parents at some level, and that's not our own alignment. So we're remembering to choose our own life, and that everyone's going to be aligned when we're happy, when we're experiencing our own joy, is when everybody goes into harmony around us. If we've been trained to leave ourselves so that others can be happy, we don't have harmony, because we've left ourselves, and we're the creator of harmony. Or if we leave, then what's going to happen is the belief systems are going to run, and they're just going to do the same repeating patterns. So in evolution, one of the reasons we do body electronics is to help us stay. We say I touch and I stay, but in body electronics, it really helps out with that, to remember that we can touch and feel. What I discovered in doing evolution was how much fight or flight women had when they found out, at whatever age they found out what it meant to be a woman in the world. A lot of them had fight or flight about that, and then they covered it over and built their career or their families on top of that, the fight or flight. So it can be moved, it can be touched, and it can be moved. And what returns is our powerful love, our security, our stay, our will. The women have something like 70% of women have low thyroid, and that means they don't have their will. So in body language translation, thyroid is about will, metabolism, power, and also our voice and our expression. So if that's what's going on, we're going to own it, that's going on. And what's the movement there? To restore the truth about our power and to stay in our power. And so body language, we translate body language, we translate the collective. Well, if women have been suppressed, then we're here to raise. So we're going to go, when I first decided to do the Evolution Women's Retreat, I was looking for what's out there that's already like this. And what I found was things that were saying, you got to go against. You're going to be strong, so the men or the patriarchy or something doesn't get you. And I said, well, that's not going to work, because our subconscious has to keep representing what to move away from, which means we don't ever get away from it. And so instead, we're going to remember security or power or trust or something else that doesn't have us have to create an away from. So I said to myself, well, if the teaching that's out there right now is that we're going to fight for women's rights, well, that's not our nature to begin with. So that's not going to work. Women have birthed everyone on the planet. We get that life is sacred. We're not going to fight. That's just not our nature. We're into the raising and protecting and the nurturing of life. So we're not going to leave our true nature in order to try to get a different result. We're going to own our true nature, and thyroid is about ownership. We're going to own our nature and claim it. To claim that we can nurture life fully, but the real trick here is that we go first. Remember, the woman puts the oxygen mask on herself, and then she puts it on others. And that's what coming to evolution is about, putting your oxygen mask on yourself, and then everybody gets it. And we have women that go home and they say, oh, my family was already upgraded. My children, my spouse, my partner, they were all speaking different when I went home. And that's because our belief system, our subconscious, when we actually shift it, then the outer automatically goes into the shift, and you go home to a new environment because you had a new you. And so we're doing the complete transformation. It's not an improvement or a feel good and you got a nice vacation from your stress. Now this is finding out what all that you're the truth of who you are, and the powerful being of love and light that you are is not in stress. That's a thought form or a belief system. And you likely didn't start it. Maybe the Great Depression or something else started that belief system and got passed on. But we are the architect of our reality. So quantum physics, for instance, calls us a universe in training, because they say within all our atoms, we have so much energy. We have enough energy to run our own universe. How powerful are we really? We're just using our speech to play small. You know, I'm tired, or I'm stressed, or something else. And so we're going to remember our power of choice, which is also thyroid, to choose, power to choose. And we don't have to go very far back as women to where women were more objects or property, or couldn't put their name on a credit card, or different areas of our planet where things like that are going on. Well, now you can get a license, but you need a man to sign off on you having a license, a driver's license. So the thing is we're not going to make any of that wrong, because if we make it wrong, we take it on. We're going to forgive all that. We're going to get our highest choices up on deck, because we're going to go off the idea that our so-called weakness was us actually building a strength. So if women agreed to be suppressed or oppressed because we were mastering what it is to really raise life, not oh, I made their lunch, I got them to school on time, I'm raising life. No, it's bigger than that. We're bigger than that. What is going to be for us to really raise life for all children is the power that we have within us. So that's the remembering, and within a few days the remembering is happening in evolution, and women are so happy to be on their great missions. So thank you for coming to our call. Is there any other questions before we wrap up? We have only 5 spots left in this particular evolution. So if you're interested, you can go to our website, faithandwellness.com, and put on your deposit. As soon as you commit is when your retreat starts. As soon as you put your deposit is when your retreat starts. And because you made a powerful choice for yourself. And we've had women who come to evolution and they say, this is the first time I've done anything for me. And it's powerful to hear that, because I could relate. I was that mom. I was that spouse, and I was that woman who did played in all those ways. But our greatest weakness is actually a strength we were building. We were finding out everything about what is it really going to be to raise life. And how creative are we? And how much love are we? Okay. So that's our call. Thank you all. Oh, Tracy has something.
I feel this impression to say it's a kind of a link to the caller who asked about coming in and staying in, coming back to a retreat after she had been to body electronics. Staying in the game is part of it. The practice of it, especially, is so. I'm a yes for staying in community. I love my women, and even so, sometimes I have things going on in my life where I would stay away from a few classes and always come back, always welcome back. And yet, when you come back, you're like, oh, this is just so yummy. Can I just stay here? And yes, the real world happens, and we take our upgrades at each time and take them back into our reality. I encourage you to stay plugged in. There are many ways to plug in, and yet the foundational work is done in an evolution. So I highly recommend you going to an evolution, this evolution, because why wait? Our future is unknown sometimes. Just jump in now. And then there's other ways to plug in still in the future. And it's always better. It's always bigger. That's it.
Awesome. And you can tell those of us that have done evolution are very enthusiastic about it.
Yes.
And so you can also, there's a contact us if you desire a private conversation about discovering if evolution is a good fit for you right now. You can email us on the website. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone who shared, and I'm inspired again.
Thank you, Faith.
Okay, good night.
And everyone.
Everybody unmute
Thank
yourself.
you.
Say good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
Demetria. I see you.
Good night.
Hey, girl.
Awesome.
Good to